And now, a workshop of the McAllen City Commission. All workshops are open to the public in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act. These workshops allow for detailed staff presentations.
And good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's workshop. We have a few items. Any issues regarding the meeting or regular meeting today? Any
No
questions
questions.
to staff? No? Okay, we'll go item number 2.
Item number 2 is discussion on multifamily alley requirements.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Obviously, you guys know me. This is Mario Vela, and this is Marco Ortiz from Public Works. We're going to discuss alley requirements in multifamily subdivisions and more generally speaking, kind of trash pickup. Next. Well, I meant the slide. Sorry, man. Yeah, we should have practiced this. We have seen increases in multifamily developments recently, specifically your detached duplexes. So as everything here, we're always trying to be efficient in the city of McAllen. And so we understand that developers don't always want to dedicate for alleys because they are losing certain portion of their land. But we have tried to work with developers as much as possible to get centralized locations, something that is kind of in the middle between what we need and what works for the developer. Next one, please. And so last May, we did come before you with an ordinance amendment, specifically allowing the planning director or his designee to require alleys in multifamily developments. And so really what that was meant to do was bring the developer to the table so that we could work something out. The main idea being to put the alleys and the trash behind the front of the buildings to facilitate collection efforts as well as make it a little bit safe, so getting the bins outside of the street. And at the end of the day, aesthetics also played a role because if you have driven by some of the subdivisions that don't have trash pickup in the front, they do give a different and cleaner vibe than others. Sorry, you.
Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor and City Commissioners. This will be a short presentation. We just wanted to talk about the importance of alleys and other types of collection methods that we can employ if alleys are not provided by a developer, which would be those centralized collection dumpsters, and we'll talk a little bit about that here in the presentation. We are also bringing this up because later on in the meeting there might be a variance presented asking for a multifamily development that is asking not to provide alleys, but maybe asking that they will provide a centralized location, which is okay with us, as opposed to roll-out carts, which was the initial proposal that they were asking to do. So we're good with that. I'll cover that again in a few minutes as we continue to go on. So some of the benefits of an alley pickup service with multifamily developments is that it affords the residents the ability to place the trash out in the rear of the property. That includes bulky waste, and in our experience, bulky waste can mean mattresses, it can mean sofas, furniture, in those multifamily developments that it's associated with move-ins, move-outs, and so forth. That allows us for efficient collection. If they are in the alley, they're evenly spaced out. We usually put a dumpster between every 2 buildings, every 4 buildings, and it allows us to pick them up safely as there are minor or not too many obstructions in the alley. And then obviously that's the most efficient way to do it. And the big part of it is that trash, bulky waste, it remains in the alley and out of sight of the street for passerbys along the roadway. These are some examples of some current multifamily developments. So in the past, they were not required to provide an alley or centralized collection areas. So therefore, some of the dumpsters were placed out at the curb, right along the roadway. And so then obviously the problem is the accumulation of trash. It's unsightly and it becomes a problem and a nuisance. And you know, somebody puts some illegal dumping or puts a couple things out there, and next thing you know, it's a larger and larger pile, and it becomes an issue. So this does happen throughout the city, but this is what we're trying to avoid by getting it off the roadway and into the rear or those alleys that are behind multifamily developments. This is an alternate that we would propose to the subdivisions or to the developers of these subdivisions, is to have a centralized collection area where it is a area where a dumpster would be located. These are often recessed in the back or spaced out evenly throughout the development. They shield the trash and the debris from view from the roadway. They usually take up a little bit part of an extra lot, maybe on the development side, but it does provide for the aesthetics that, a passerby on the major roadway doesn't see that from the roadway. There's a little description, maybe a little diagram here. It's a little bit too small maybe, but it shows where that dumpster area is recessed into one of the properties. What we want to try to avoid, because these are the most problematic, the least efficient, and causes the most issues, is rollout carts for multifamily developments. The reason we try not to do this is because we reserve this for homes. So usually a home, it's one building on a lot with one set of cans. So when that happens, they're evenly spaced out throughout the neighborhood. When it's multifamily, there could be 4 units or more on a single lot. So then we would have to put out that same number of containers to provide that solid waste collection for the development. And so when that many carts out in the roadway, it causes those issues. Rollout carts are put at the curb, and so therefore also, if a subdivision went this route, there would be also debris out at the curb placed out there. So as we found in many instances is that this could lead to clutter on the roadways. Obviously, the debris on the roadway. There's not adequate spacing for our trucks to pick up these containers because, as per ordinance, the 3 feet between each cart is required so that we can adequately have the space to pick it up. And then also when we require residents to take out the bins by 7 a.m. on the service day and to also remove it from the street by 7 p.m. of that same day. In our experience with multifamily subdivisions, that doesn't always happen. So this is one of the reasons why we do not like this type of collection method for multifamilies. The efficiencies go way down with this. It's inefficient because collecting 248 carts in this sample layout of this subdivision, 62 lots, 4 units per lot, 248 bins, black bins, trash cans, if my math is right. That would take us approximately 2 hours to collect those number of containers on the roadway. If we were doing dumpsters in an alley scenario where they're evenly spaced out, it'd take us about 15 minutes to collect the same volume of trash in that type of development. So that's why we're proposing that this type of method is not employed by multifamily developments because it does cause the most issues. It does cause those unsightly issues also with curbside debris and bulky waste. And it's why we're recommending that we use either service drives or alleys in this case within the property of the development or those centralized locations for dumpsters within the development. I'd be happy to entertain any questions if you have any.
Let me just add something, because Mario just said that's why we recommend. This is actually just kind of a reminder of what we require. As he indicated, this ordinance just went into effect in May of last year, a little over a year ago. And it was an issue that was created due to our own success, I'll call it. About 7-8 years ago, we began the city-initiated rezoning, and in part, there was 2 major reasons. One is that we had a lot of AO property, and we also had a lot of property that we felt had an opportunity to become multifamily. And we felt if the city initiated it, it would be received better by the community, because as you know, many times when a developer wants to do multifamily, sometimes it's not received well. And so we attempted to do that, it worked, but this is what it created. And so last year, after many months of discussion, we decided to implement this requirement. But to be clear, it isn't because we want alleys, right? Because alleys creates issues for everyone, not only the developer, as Mario or Edgar said, that, we take property from them, but they're costly, right? They're costly to the developer, and then they're costly to us because we have to maintain them. So we're trying to figure out a way to ensure that we're not creating more unsightly issues throughout the city, and that we're more efficient, and that we give an alternative to developers. So lately, a couple of you have reached out to us for this very issue, so we felt like it was important to revisit it, see if there's any more feedback on this, and ensure that this is something that we want to continue to do. This is a really good example of what happens. 496 bins, we do about 100, we can pick up about between 130 and 150 bins per hour, okay? And that's throughout the year. So you're looking at a subdivision of this size of more than 3.5 hours to service it versus 15 minutes. So that in and of itself is very costly. So anyway, we wanted to bring this back to you, remind you that this is out there, and that we're trying to work with developers to find these kinds of solutions.
The ordinance isn't retroactive, which would require subdivisions like multi-plan.
Prior to May, no.
No, right. I mean, we still have the issue, but we're trying to mitigate it through new developments, right?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think developers are gonna fight alleys, and I could see why, for the reasons stated above. So take this subdivision, no alleys. What would be the solution with dumpsters spread out? Where would they be? What would it look like? How many would be in this subdivision?
For this subdivision, we calculated 49 cubic yards of trash based on the 62 lots that we have here and 4 units per lot. So we would need about 4 centralized dumpster locations.
Only 4?
Only 4. And our dumpsters, if you go back one slide, as you can see, we have areas that don't really get in the way of the development as much. You know, they take up a small portion of it. We only require a 10 by 13 dumpster enclosure area, which is very minimal. And for this subdivision, it's only 4 of those.
We taking into account working with developers on, might be 4, but you might be, if you're the person living farthest from them, it's not the most appealing and convenient way of living, right? When you've got to walk.
So that's not our biggest enclosure volume, 8-yard dumpster. If you minimize the size of the 8-yard dumpster, let's say if you do a 4-yard or a 6-yard dumpster, then you can create more enclosures and have them closer to each area around the neighborhood.
But they'd be in the front, right?
They would be in the front, right, recessed into.
So we will do that for developers.
Yes, we are willing to work with them in that regard to minimize the amount of bins, the rollout carts that we have throughout the neighborhood. Yes, sir.
With 4-yard being the smallest, or would we go, is there a 2-yard?
If we provide enclosures like this, we can go all the way down to 2-yard, all the way down to 8-yard, depending on what the developer would want. As far as silos, we can only do 2- and 4-yard containers. So, you know, for silo collection, it really doesn't work out for these.
Yeah.
Because these are all front loaders, right?
Right.
Yeah, these are front loaders, okay.
Let me throw something out. Recycled, the recycling. Why would it be mandatory to have recycling bins in apartment complexes?
It's the ordinance.
That's the ordinance. That's an ordinance that we have, that everyone has recycled bins.
All residential units have a recycle bin. You can actually choose not to have it as a customer, and have only 1 bin or 2 bins. But nevertheless, even if you have 2 black bins, we still charge you for recycling. That's what the ordinance says.
And do you think, now I'm asking commission, do you think that it's, absolutely necessary to have recycling in apartment complexes? I'm throwing it out, I don't know.
I do. I think it's part of the culture we put in our city, whether you rent or own. The mayor's talked about, expanded initiatives with keeping our city clean, and
Well,
I would think that plays a big part in it.
But keeping our city clean, having 1 bin or 2 bins, I mean, yeah, this is a recycling thing.
Maybe not clean, but I think more along the lines of the culture we want to establish or set with our residents, right? That it is a priority to us.
I mean, as a citizen, you're responsible in a way for how we're gonna have our earth and our community. So if you live in an apartment or you live in a mansion, you have the same responsibility to go ahead and try to help as much as we can.
Well, in a big apartment complex, okay, a complex, well, there are areas that are designated so that they can come down and throw their trash and throw their recycling, okay? But this is more for duplexes and fourplexes. And I'm just saying, instead of having, in a duplex, having 4, you're gonna have 2. Right? If you eliminate the recycling. I'm just saying, if the option of you just have less bins there, less, like you say, it doesn't look as good on trash days, okay? But now it would be half of them.
Right.
Or the other, and obviously, where you're going to do these type of things, they have to be, they're gonna be seen. They have to be seen by the public, because you're gonna have to bring the truck in and take it, so. I'm just throwing it out there. It's really necessary to have recycling in some of these subdivisions. It's a small part of our city, not a huge part of our city.
To set up a collection area for recycling.
Yeah, it'd be tough to
It's always a
segment
tough
out,
issue that,
whether
you can't
it's
get involved
duplex,
right off the bat because-
fourplex, multifamily, and not require
yeah.
them just
We
out
could
of
do that, yes.
either convenience or, whatever the fact. I just think it'd be more appropriate just to keep it standard amongst all our classes.
Just a point of clarification, I didn't think we recycled on multifamily like apartments. Maybe duplexes, but not apartments, right?
We can with these types of units.
Okay, but
Yeah,
right
with the
now
duplex.
we don't, right?
I don't know the answer. to that.
We've tried several times to initiate recycling programs within multifamilies, and we've had some successes, but a lot of times there's a compliance issue. We end up pooling carts
that's right.
because of, let's say, we do our Recycle Right program, we start pooling carts. Sometimes we know if there's got to be buy-in by either the homeowners association or the property management group that's managing the site. They've got to want to do that. They've got to encourage their folks to do that. We can do education, which we do, but there's got to be that kind of buy-in on their side. We do give them all the carts right off the bat for trash. We try to ease in maybe the recycle carts, but it's just depending on the initiative and the buy-in from that subdivision
Did you
to
say
do that.
that the city pays for the centralized dumpster enclosures?
That would be the developer that would have to
Okay.
build this at the time of subdivision.
That's what I thought. All right. Just wanted to make sure.
In some subdivisions, some developers have asked us if they can include a centralized enclosure like this one for recycling, specifically for recycling. So
Okay.
in some of those areas, they have provided one because they do want their community to be able to have the option to recycle. Giving, our residents the option to recycle, I think is important because the same option that a resident has in an R1 type of zone they should have in a multifamily development. So we feel that if the developers want to provide that for their residents, then that's something that we can provide as well.
Is it gonna depend on the developer? Because there you got stone, it's really pretty, but because some of them put cedar.
Right, so that's in our enclosure guidelines. So we ask for CMU block walls, some cement walls that they have to provide, and then also metal gates. So it would look similar to this. They are welcome to do this if they like, but we do have it on our design guides, design guidelines, how they needs to be built.
So it has to be it has to be block.
It has to be CMU, yes, sir.
What did you need from us today, Roy?
Just a reminder that this is ongoing. It's relatively new, and so there's growing pains with it, and we certainly hear it.
So we have a variance coming up regarding this issue, as far as alley or not alley versus that, enclosures. Okay. Because I think, I myself like the enclosures better than alleys. I'm very anti-alley. The maintenance, the everything. This looks
And I
nice.
also will tell you, security in an alley is of concern. Yeah. If, residents, because you're coming in late at night at times, you're working, or whatever, and nobody, you're behind, you're in the back, so nobody's seeing you. In the front, you have a little more security. That's That's what I'm saying. So, that's where your parking would be, right?
Yeah.
So, it kind of looks better, right, if it's in the back, but the security part of it, there's a lot of concern out there.
Two things, yes, safety and maintenance,
Huh?
future, both.
Safety and maintenance, yeah.
Yeah.
But
And
a lot
maintenance.
of these duplexes also, I guess, for parking concern and to meet the parking requirement, they have to put in an alley so they can park from behind and not just use front street parking, because you're never gonna have enough off the street.
And a lot of these type of duplexes and fourplexes are not owned by one whole community. They're individuals
Right.
that own them. So you have that, again, I know what, Edgar, it's a tough situation, and I know you tried to implement something and to get response. Well, you're getting the response, okay? So, these, like you just put right there, that one, you're not gonna be able to have a recycle and a bin there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, depending on what we
We
work
don't know
out with
what
the
size,
developer.
right?
Right. We can provide, or they can decide to build one of these just specifically for recycling, and then we can service that on the recycling side.
So
Or the
right
whole
there,
subdivision.
it's closed, but people come at all times of the hours to throw their trash there.
Correct.
So it's gonna be open. Okay? So the look in front was something similar to what you're going to, what you showed before in another,
Right.
in another slide. Okay?
This is the next best thing to not providing service drives.
Yeah,
So,
but,
you know, to be-
yeah, but if you go back a few slides, you'll see in front, but see that one right there? That's the way it's gonna look. You can put a gate on it if you want, but it's gonna look like that, because people need to open it in order to put their trash in, so I don't know about that look in front anyway, okay?
We agree.
And that's why I'm saying, if some apartment complexes are not being forced to have recycling, okay, why are we making this community forced to have recycling? That's what I'm getting at.
We don't require recycling. I happen to think that we should require recycling, but it's not something the city commission wanted to do a year and a half ago. But I think we should. I think that they should designate a recycling bin, like the rest of the community, and we have a recycling location to pick up,
Like the rest of the community.
like you and me in a residential.
But do we have recycling bins that
But
are
we don't
2
have-
and 4 yard size to do that?
I'm sorry?
Do we have recycling bins of 2 and 4 yard size to do that?
Sure.
Yes, sir. We can service through our, what we call our paper route through our recycling program. In certain subdivisions, if they decide to have a dumpster for specifically commingled recycling. So it would be a 3-yard dumpster that we can roll out to the street and service with a
I
rear
see.
load truck.
Okay. But I think that works when you have one developer or one owner, like Commissioner Aguirre was saying, because a lot of the ones I keep thinking about is off the east side of Robin and 10th Street.
Right.
Those are multiple owners all over
Yeah,
the
they're
place.
all multiple.
You're not gonna be
Right,
consistent.
but, you
But
know,
you have
so-
one owner, it works.
So the ordinance was prospective only.
Right.
And so we should require an HOA that, that is responsible for that. I mean, that's not uncommon.
Yeah.
Rick,
Okay.
Anything else? Thank you very much.
thank you, guys.
I
And
believe
I
that's all we
apologize,
have.
we're gonna have 2 more items. In fact, I promised Omar we were gonna have Kapler, and we weren't ready, so it'll be in the next meeting.
We'll recess into executive session.
This concludes the workshop of the McAllen City Commission. Workshops are held every second and fourth Monday of the month, convening at 4 p.m. at the McAllen City Commission chamber on the 3rd floor at McAllen City Hall.
vehicle operating cost savings of over $363 million and a value of time savings of more than $270 million over a 32-year period. The Anzalduas International Bridge Cargo Facility will take global trade to new